Hey, welcome to Shop Talk Day 8. I'm Rachel Evans, founder and CEO at the Workshop Whisperer, helping auto repair shop owners just like you to achieve business and lifestyle success since 2014. Well, didn't we stir up the hornet's nest yesterday, discussing the leader you need to be when you discover that your technicians or one technician is potentially doing something to undermine your business in order to start their own? We're going to move on from that because a question that I had land in my inbox overnight was regarding the terminology A player and how do you recognize that you have them? And by extension, if you can recognize what an A player is, you'll also recognize what a B player is. And hopefully, you don't have any C players, but a C player as well. But before you go categorizing the people that work for you, you've got to step back and you've got to have a look at where you sit in the scale of A players and B players. You're unlikely to be a C player because most C players don't make it to the space where they're looking for help for business growth and professional development. There's just a general lack of awareness and they don't move out of that. So we're going to look at you first. So are you an A player boss or are you a B player boss? So we can think of the analogy of the line. Okay, we've got a line here, and A players are on top of the line, B players are below the line. And you can be a B player and still be of value to the organization if you're a team member. You can be a B player boss if you are new at this, if you are learning, or if you have reached the top of a mountain and you are now climbing the next mountain. Like there are all places along the way, stepping stones, milestones, where based on the quality of the team you have around you, your leadership has to go up a notch. So you can move in and out of A and B player depending on your own leadership. It's really important to understand that. The mindset of an A player leader, though, is that of somebody who is open to learning, is coachable, is looking to grow, and is happy to receive feedback, even if the feedback doesn't come to them in a form that they would advocate for. They're able to observe rather than take personally, because your A player is able to see things from a distance, from a height, and with context. A C player, on the other hand, is going to take everything personally, is probably sitting in victimhood in most areas of their life, and is unlikely to believe they're ever the problem. That's why most C player employers aren't here in this community or this part of the algorithm that YouTube has found for us here, watching self-help and professional development videos about their auto repair shop, because a C player never believes they're the problem. They're already in a state of perfection and there's no work for them to do. Just by giving you that description, you could probably identify if you've ever had a C player work for you. But sometimes the difference between a B player and an A player is more difficult to distinguish. So you're being a B player boss rather than being an A player boss when you've got some skills and you're definitely open to feedback and coaching yourself, but you're not necessarily feeding that through to your team to help grow them. So you could be a bit in your fear mind around some of the things that we talked about in day 7 yesterday about putting too much knowledge and effort and too much of your experience into some of your team members because you fear they'll get so good that they'll want to go and do it for themselves. Okay, that would make you a B player boss rather than an A player boss. You are an A player boss when you are actively setting your team members up from the moment you bring them into your organization. So there's a recognizable recruitment system there that is properly going through all the steps that we talk about in our No More Bad Hires online program, which we'll put the link for again in with this video today. It's only $29. You can go and get it, swipe all the files, get the GPT that writes your job ads. There's a recognizable recruitment system there and evidence for the person you're recruiting that when they get a job with you, you're not just throwing them out there into your ecosystem and it's sink or swim from a cultural perspective. You're going to check in with them after you've, done your official walk around, meeting everyone, blah, blah, blah. You've got designated meeting points throughout their first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, all the way through to 180 days. And then they fall into your regular feedback forum schedule with your team members every 90 days after that. You are going to set them up with the learning plan they need in order to not just be successful at the role you've hired them for, but they're going to be successful in their career with you. Because as an A-player boss, you are in charge of developing the next wave of people that are in this automotive aftermarket, the service advisors, the technicians, the next wave of leadership. You have a piece in the responsibility for ensuring that after you, the industry's in good hands. Now, you might think, I haven't got time to think about that. I can only focus on right now. Well, your job right now is to develop that in you and recognize that your business will be more successful when you start to develop the people in your team to help you. So that makes you an A-player boss. Does being an A-player boss mean that you don't have problems, that you're not putting out fires? Not at all. But as you ascend to the top of the next staircase or the top of the next mountain, whichever way you'd like to look at it, the higher you get in your ascension, the higher quality problems you're solving. So if you're 100 steps higher in the atmosphere than the last time you tackled a particular problem that's now in front of you, you're not solving the problem with the knowledge that you had down at the bottom of the last mountain or the last staircase. You're solving it with the knowledge that you have, that you acquired while you climbed the last 100 steps. So business is never without its problems. Money doesn't just make your problems go away in the team sense, but it can help you afford better quality solutions in the form of better quality team members. So on the workshop floor, for instance, you've got A, B, and C grade techs likely. Okay, so let's start from C. A C grade tech is someone who might be an apprentice. They're still in learning phase. Okay, think about, the first or second year kid who is still having everything poured into him or her. Okay, you can't put them on your diagnostic work unless you're training them and you're there with them at the same time on their first day. C grade techs can also be those who are fully qualified, but they seem to have got their ticket in a place that's not the same as where you came from. And all you can really have them do with certainty is your basic servicing. But they can do that They can pump them out, relatively low error rate. You just have them doing that. Okay, that's still a C grade. The guy that has, or girl, apologies, who has been around forever, has a high error rate on anything, also C grade. Then we move to B grade. This can be someone newly qualified or coming to the end of their apprenticeship, but you've already got them on most things. They just haven't seen enough for long enough for them to be your top diagnostic person or, be able to solve those complex things, or they're just not quite yet at the speed of repair that produces low return rate. So you make them go too fast at this point, there still might be error, but generally they are quite good. Trustworthy, loyal, they're a B tech. Our A grade tech, that's usually you, because it's usually not the nature of a technician to go into business for themselves without being, pretty schmicko as a technician. Usually, there are exceptions, of course, but it's usually the technicians that have been around forever, can diagnose anything, low error rate, work to the desired timeframes. So efficiency is pretty close to 100, and they're ultra productive. You can give them anything, they can do it. Not one piece of supervision required. That's why that's usually you. If you're very fortunate, you've recruited somebody like that as well, and that person replaces you when you're not there or is already your leading hand or workshop foreman. So that's your A, B, C player techs. But you can have people in those grades and they not quite be an A player because there's something wrong with their understanding of your culture. And we get caught up in thinking, but they're a high-end B tech or an A tech, but they gossip non-stop, right? They work to time, but when they're not working to time, they're causing trouble with the other guys, or they're not happy about the way you do something and they try and recruit others to their cause. They're undermining your leadership. You yourself, if you're an A player boss, you can drop down to being a B player boss if you don't address that stuff head on. And one of the biggest challenges we're helping our clients overcome when they come into our programs is their willingness to address conflict with their team members. So no one wants to be in high conflict situations with people every day, but when you're running a team, you have to be prepared as the person who has chief responsibility for your culture to be the one to deal with it in the moment or at the very next available opportunity. So an A player individual who is also a good quality technician in this case is going to be producing what they need to for you productivity and efficiency wise, but they're also going to be chief protector with you of your culture. If the culture thing doesn't exist and you're not looking after it yourself and you have an A player that you hire in, they won't stay. They are not interested in working with B players. They'll work with a B tech who just might not be quite as experienced, and they'll often mentor a C tech who might be an apprentice. But if you've got other people in the team who are not A players, as in excellent participants in the culture, your A players won't stay. So that's why you need to be an A player boss, and you need to recognize in the first instance if you are not one, and recognize what you can do to make that up. You can go to all the effort. You can put our recruitment system in place with no more bad hires. You can do your learning plan. You can check in with them at regular intervals to make sure everything's going well. But if you don't protect your culture and if you don't address poor behavior, your A player won't stay. As I said yesterday, A players, it's not just about the type of work or the salary that you're paying them. It must be how they enjoy your ecosystem that you've built as well. A players want to help you win. That's part of what an A player wants. As an A player boss, you want them to win. It's part of what lights you up. You are chief protector of the culture in your auto repair shop. Make sure you are rising to the occasion. Like I said, will problems still occur even when you're an A player boss? Of course they will. That's business. But it's your ability to hold the pressure and perform anyway for your team that will see you stay majority of the time being an A player boss that other A players want to come and work for. They want to stay in your environment. Word gets around. You think about the people that come to visit your business, the reps that are coming in and out, supplier reps, the technicians, they might have friends working in other workshops. Good news spreads. We think it's only bad news that spreads, but good news spreads as well. One of the chief spreader of news is the guy that drives in the white truck with the red stripe. Okay, think of how many shops he is visiting. The Snap-on guy. People like that, they recognize a good ecosystem. And when they've got a technician on board looking at the latest whatever, and they have a chat with them, the technician's going to talk to the Snap-on guy. They've built a rapport. So let's make sure that what your technicians are saying is positive stuff that the Snap-on guy then goes and tells the next technician about, who's saying, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it here. So we've got A, B, and C technicians out on the floor, but around that, we've got A and B players. And if you're really unlucky, a C player. You've got to be an A player boss to attract the best talent and keep it, other A players. They want to protect your culture as much as you do, because one of their ticks that they need to be in your workplace is that they enjoy the environment. Please subscribe to our channel. Please like this video, and I'll see you for day 9 tomorrow.